There we go. Okay, so to find the slope, we do rise over run, right? So we need 2 points to be able to do that, right? And what are our 2 points that we have right there?
2 and 120.
Okay, we have 2 and 120. And then what's the other one?
7 and 295.
Okay. That looks like 3. Okay, so we have our 2 points, then we do rise over run, right? So we find our rise first, that goes upstairs, and how do we do that?
We just have to go first.
So which one do we want to be first? This one, 2 120 or 7 295?
7 to 95.
Okay, we'll just write that real quick. Okay, so this is first, and then this will be second. So we've decided that, then we have to label each of our points, right? So what would y sub or x sub 1 be?
X sub 1 would be 7.
Because that's our first ordered pair, that's what we decided. Then our y sub 1 would be the 295, right? So then our x sub 2 and y sub 2 become 2 and 120, right? And it would help if I pick the right numbers. There we go. Okay, so we have our values labeled, so now we use the slope formula, right, to find the slope. So what goes upstairs first?
It goes 295 minus 120 over 7 minus 2, right? Or
It goes y sub 2 minus y sub 1 first, right? So
120 minus 295
okay,
over 2 minus 7.
all right,
What does the slope formula start out as, though? I wanted an equation, sorry.
okay.
No, m equals, I want an m equals in front of that. We've gotta keep our, because we're gonna use m a lot, so we gotta stay with, we're finding m. M is slope.
So we have 120 up, or 120 minus 295 upstairs. So what is that? Negative 175. And then 2 minus 7 is negative 5. And we can simplify this to what? 35. Okay. So that is what for this problem? The slope, and of A, B, C, or D, which one's that? D. So our answer for that one would be D. B. Thank you. All right, so moving on to number 2. What does the slope represent? So first off, what is our graph showing?
The incline of the line.
Say that again, Noah?
The incline of the line.
Yes, and then Michaela, you said something?
Cost per
Cost per month.
monthly membership.
Okay, yep, so right here it says membership at Fabulously Fit. Our x-axis is labeled number of months, our y-axis is labeled cost. So, based on that, after so many months, we're probably going to be paying so many dollars to be a member there, right? So, based on the slope that we found of 35, what does that represent in regards to our graph there? Because we have 4 choices: the enrollment fee, late payment fee, total cost, or the monthly membership fee.
A really good way to help you decide class is let's, right beside those 4 choices, would you put 35 over 1? Because we can make it back into a rise over run. We can make anything into a fraction by putting it over 1, right? 35 came from the change in the y's. What are the y's? What's the label for the y's? Cost in dollars, right? So dollars. What is the label for the x's, which is the bottom, the run? The change in x's is downstairs. What's the label for the x's? Months. So what did we just find? We found out that it is what?
$35 per
Yeah, it's $35 per month. So which of those do you think that is?
Mm-hmm.
J, the monthly membership fee. Yeah, so it helps to write the slope, even though sometimes it simplifies to a whole number. Write it over 1, give the labels to the rise and the run, and then it'll help you decide what that slope represents.
All right. So, does anyone have any questions so far before we move on to 3 and 4? Okay. So, number 3, the graph shows the number of emergency kits assembled by volunteers over a period of days. So, we're asked to find the slope and then tell what the slope represents. So, first things first, we find the slope. We need 2 points for that. So, what 2 points are we given?
224 minus 672.
And 672. All right. You have to decide which is first and second. So, which one should we go with?
X minus 6.
This one? So x sub 1 would be this one, y sub 1 would be 72. And based off that, this would be x sub 2 and y sub 2. Okay. Then, what do we do from here?
Do m equals y2 minus y1, which is 24 minus 72.
I'm just going to rewrite that. So, y2 is 24, y1 is 72, so 24 minus 72 upstairs, and x sub 2 minus x sub 1, 2 minus 6 goes downstairs. So, what's 24 minus 72?
Negative 48.
Negative 48. Then 2 minus 6 is negative 4. Then negative 48 divided by negative 4 is 12, positive 12. Right. So that's one part. We found the slope of, come on, there we go. Found the slope of this situation where emergency kits were prepared by volunteers. So, just like Ms. Legrand said, we can change that to a fraction. So 12 can be changed to what?
12.
12 over 1. Yep. So for slope, rise over run. Our rise is the change in y value. So what is our label for the y-axis that we're doing? Okay. Go down.
You just put K for short now.
Hmm?
You just put K for kiss.
We can just put number of kits. So like that. Okay, so we have our label for our rise. What is our label for our run going to be?
Number of days.
Okay. So someone tell me what that slope is saying.
They assembled 12 kits in one day.
Mm-hmm. So,
Every day you're gonna 12 kids.
okay, so once we figure all this out, we're gonna describe what it's saying. We're gonna write that in a sentence. So I'm gonna start you guys off. The slope represents what?
Kids per day.
Okay,
Be more specific.
How many kits been made in one day?
how many kids?
12 kids were made in 1 day.
Okay,
So represents that 12 kids was the total number of kids per day.
okay, you're getting closer. So slope represents, they can make 12 kits a day, right?
12 kids made each day.
Okay, it represents the number of kits. We're not abbreviating or using any signs because we're writing a sentence, right?
Yay.
The slope represents the number of kits. What's the last part?
Per day.
Made per day. All right, so the slope represents the number of kits made per day. 12 is the number of kits, 1 is the number of days. Looks good to me. All right, so now we can move on to number 4. So number 4 says the graph shows how much flour is in a bag at different times. Find the slope of the line and then tell what the slope represents. So,
Let's have them do it.
yep, you guys can do this one.
Good, go to work and do it, and Mr. Conlon will just work it out up there, and you can only look up just to, check yours, okay? So I want you working it out,
Does it say 4.6?
Yes.
okay, and we don't leave decimals in our answers. So if you get to the slope and there's a decimal in your answer and you don't know what to do, you can hold up there and then Mr. Conlon will help you figure out what would we do. We never leave fractions or decimals in our fraction slope. Depends on which point you use first. So your 3 is positive. Do you guys have a rest of the things? First of all, the line is falling from left to right, so your slope better turn out what? Negative.
Hmm.
Or
nearly done. So, did you guys get negative 0.2 for your slope? Okay, but we can't have decimals as our slopes, right? We have to rewrite them as fractions, right? So what is negative 0.2 rewritten as a fraction? Negative 2 over 10, yeah. And then can that be simplified to anything? Negative 1/5, so that means our rise is,
Negative 1/5, so it's going
down 1 unit and over how many? Over 5, right? Are we done yet? Nope, we still have to label it, so we have negative 1 over 5. Our rise is what goes upstairs, so and that's the change in our y value. So what is our label for our y?
pounds.
Pounds of what?
Flour.
Pounds of flour, okay. So we'll do pounds of flour. And over, what's our label for our x values?
Days since purchase.
Days since purchase, so we can put number of days. All right, so what does this slope tell us?
The slope represents the pounds of flour goes down every 5 days.
Down by how many?
1.
By 1 pound every 5 days, okay. So we can write the slope represents that what happened?
You lose 1 pound of flour every 5 days.
Okay, so that the number of pounds of flour lost in 5 days. Okay,
Are we losing it?
It's being used.
We're using it, aren't we?
mm-hmm.
So should we say
So the
that
slope that
1 pound of flour is used, what, every 5 days? I need to talk to them about the decimal
Mm-hmm.
thing, okay? Because we can have decimal slopes, okay? In those other problems, when I was saying at the beginning of class that we don't want to change them into mixed numbers or into decimals, we only want whole numbers or simplified fractions, that's when we don't know what the slope is representing. When we know what it's representing, sometimes it's better to leave it as a decimal. If this had been money, let's say that 0.20 was representing money, dollars, and the x-axis had been days, would it make sense to be able to say, let's say that we're talking about the price of gas. If it was a negative 0.2, and we're talking about the price of gas being checked every day, what do you think that negative 0.2, could we leave it like that, and wouldn't it make more sense to talk about it that way? What would that represent?
It'd be going down by 20 cents.
Yeah, it'd be going down 20 cents every day. So sometimes it makes sense to leave them as decimals. So sometimes it's a good idea to put a label on it first and say, does this make sense to leave it like this? In this case, it would have been 0.2 what? Pounds per day. Now, doesn't it make more sense to us though to say 2/10 of a pound of flour? Do we usually talk about flour that way? No, we don't talk about flour. We talk about it in cups or pounds or something like that, right? We don't talk about it in tenths typically. So you have to become, you have to think about them when you're finding these slopes, and then you're evaluating what they're representing and putting labels on them. You need to stop and say to yourself, does it make more sense to leave it as a decimal because it's representing money anyway? Or does it make more sense to change it to a fraction because it's representing something that we don't typically talk about in that frame of, of reference? So you have to do some critical thinking too. Okay, you need to process through and decide when should slope be divided out, when should slope be left, as a simplified fraction. Those are all things that you're going to have to decide. And that's going to happen in the homework today too, I believe. Right? So. Okay, anybody have questions about that? Does that make sense? It's important that I don't want to put you in such a rigid thing that you think you can never divide out slope and get a decimal answer. Yes, you can, if it makes sense to the problem.
All right.